everyone, my name is Neon Scorpion, you can call me Neon, and today I'll be running through a brief but information-dense tutorial on how to set up a controller to play GTA5 RP, specifically on the vanilla RP server. I will do my best to keep the fluff to a minimum, but I will be covering enough of the process and why I do the things that I do that you can walk away from this video ready to play immediately. And you'll have the basic knowledge of how the program works, so that you can customize the keybinds yourself if you want them to be different later. Throughout the tutorial, there will be a lot of images and detailed walkthroughs of each step, as well as timestamps if you need to jump to a specific part. Now, before we begin, I just want to put a disclaimer. This process involves the purchase and use of a third-party program called XPadder, which costs $10. I've tried several other methods to get controllers to work successfully in FiveM, such as Steam's built-in controller support functionality, but none of them provide what is needed to successfully play using primarily the controller. Using a program like XPadder lets us just use whatever button we want for whatever keybind we wish. It is entirely possible that there are free software to use as alternatives, but I've been using XPadder for about 12 years now, and I trust it and I know its capabilities, so that's what I'm going to cover today. So, disclaimer, because I recommend the purchasing of this program, I want to also say that neither I nor Vanilla RP have any affiliation to XPadder or its creator. I've just used it for a long time, and I find it remarkably useful in playing just about any game that would otherwise not support controllers or honestly doesn't allow you to remap keybinds. Also, no matter how much we keybind, you still have to have a keyboard to successfully play. Many emotes require long commands or really strange key presses, as well as requiring it to type any text within the city, such as /me commands or posting on Twitter or texting. Alright, now that we got that out of the way, on to the tutorial. This tutorial will be covering the key mapping of a PlayStation 4 controller. The reason I chose this controller is that it has a few more buttons that are mappable compared to an Xbox controller. The more buttons you can map, the better your experience will generally be. You can still follow this tutorial using an Xbox 360 wired controller. In fact, because Microsoft owns Xbox, their controllers are compatible with Windows computers out of the box, while some users might experience some difficulty getting their PC to detect a PlayStation controller. If you choose to follow along with an alternative controller, just make sure to assign the keybind to that controller's equivalent button. XPadder is so far incredibly good at identifying and using controllers of just about any kind. Alright, the first step we will cover is the purchase and download of the program I use, XPadder. First, open your browser and go to https://xpadder.com. Quick warning, do not try to acquire XPadder from any other website. This is very important, as the program is often an extremely old version that will not work or is hiding pretty nasty viruses. Once you go to the site, you will see this screen. Select your language of choice, in my case, English. Then in the next screen, select your country, in my case, the United States. You will then arrive on this screen with several screenshots of the program and a description of its uses. You can scroll to see a video and reviews from other people who have used the program. Here, below, is a field to put in your email address. Go ahead and type in your email address, and an email will be sent to you within about 5 minutes containing a link. Then, go to your email, click the link, and you will be brought to a new screen that looks like this. Alright, on the left side is a button that says Buy. Go ahead and click that. Now hit the button labeled Activate, and you will be brought to PayPal to complete the purchase. Once that is finished, you will receive another email saying that the payment is complete with a link to continue on and download the program. Okay, so now that you have XPadder and you have successfully downloaded the program, you need to do one last step. Make sure your controller is unplugged from your PC, then restart your PC. Once it is booted back up, then reopen XPadder. At the top of the XPadder, it should have a red box on the left, possibly with a searching icon. Now, plug in your controller, and that box should turn white. This means XPadder has detected the controller, and it is ready to begin mapping. If, for whatever reason, the box stays red, you might try closing the program and reopening it, trying another controller USB cord, or restarting the PC while keeping the controller plugged in through the whole process. All of those are common fixes for these detection issues. Alright, so your controller is detected and you're ready to begin mapping. The first step is setting up what XPadder refers to as an image of your controller. This is basically a way of designating which buttons on your controller you want to be mappable, which ones are on and usable, and in this case, we want all of them. We will now be going through and making sure every button is detected and usable. First, go to the top right and click the controller icon and select New. A pink screen will appear. On the bottom left, you will select Sticks. Then, click the Enable button for the left stick and follow the on-screen prompt, pressing the joystick in the signal direction until it is finished. Then, you're going to repeat this process for the right analog stick. Next, on the left, select D-pad. Just as before, click Enable and follow the on-screen prompts. Next, go to Buttons. Here, you need to systematically press every single button on your controller. Make sure to include the Start, Options, or Home buttons, as well as the PS4's touchpad, and be sure to press down both sticks until they click to add the L3 and R3 buttons. Some controllers, like the PS4 controller, consider the triggers as buttons, so be sure to press those down and see if they are added as buttons. If they are not added, then, when you are done pressing every other button on the controller, on the left you'll have to go to Triggers and make sure to add them there. Now hit OK and back out of the screen. Here, you should now see a bunch of white squares ready to be mapped. Before continuing, go back to the controller icon and be sure to save this image. Name it something like PS4 Controller image. Now we can move on to setting up the keybinds. We will start with the analog sticks. Beside the left analog stick is a small wrench icon. Click that. Then select WSAD to automatically assign those correctly. Now go to the right joystick and select the wrench icon again. This time, select the mouse-normal option. Once you have done that, click the wrench again and go to Mouse Settings at the bottom. Click the Move Together box, and then move the slider anywhere between 75 to 90. This setting controls your mouse sensitivity while playing. Hit OK, then go back to the wrench icon. At the top, select Settings. Here, you can set a dead zone, as well as directional mapping. If your mouse moves on its own, make sure to increase the dead zone size until it no longer triggering mouse input. Now, turn the diagonal size all the way to the right. This makes mouse movement much more fluid and exact. And then, hit OK. Next, we'll move on and do all the standard buttons, X, square, circle, and triangle for PS4, or A, X, B, and Y for Xbox, respectively. Tap the X button on your controller to make the corresponding white square light up green in XPadder, then select that square. A keyboard will then pop up. Here, at the bottom right, is a button labeled Advanced. Click that and open another pop-up. This advanced menu will be used extensively over the course of this tutorial, so pay close attention to this process, as I will repeat it on other buttons many times. Now, this screen is used to set up advanced functionality, such as multiple keys with a single press, toggle keys, longer macros, and even press and hold functions that let us map 2 keys to 1 button. This press and hold function lets us set one key when we tap the button and a second to be triggered if we hold it, and we will be using this the most, so this is how you set that up. In this top box is a blank white square. This is called your sequence. What you place in this will be done on every press of the button. For our first in the sequence, we need to apply a release zone by clicking the yellow icon. Once it is added to the sequence, make sure it is selected and highlighted blue above. Now we're going to edit the time. Go to the time buttons. These buttons let you fine-tune the timing of macros or button presses. You can click the larger icons to jump straight to that exact timing, and you can press the plus and minus buttons to the right to increase or decrease by that respective increment. For this first release zone, we need a time of 0.01 seconds, so click the large 0.01 second button. Click the next white square in the sequence and highlight it blue. We assign this to be our left control button. Either press it on your keyboard or select it in the pop-up keyboard window. Then, go to the next square in the sequence and highlight it. We're now adding another yellow release zone. Make sure the new zone is highlighted, and then we'll need to set that timing to 0.45 seconds. With that set to 0.45 seconds, we have now created a minimum and maximum button press length required to trigger the left control key, meaning anywhere from a quick 0.01 second tap to a 0.45 second press will do your left control button. We will now tell it that what key we want if we hold longer than that. Select the next square in the chain, and this time select the green Add Hold Zone button. Then, making sure it is selected and highlighted, we will add 0.05 seconds to that timing, which is going to set it to half a second. Then, proceed to the next square in the sequence and set it to the Q key. Now if you hold the key for half a second or longer, you will instead press Q. This makes it so that your X button will make your character crouch, or they will go to duck and cover if you hold it down. Now, close out and we will move on to your square button, or X for Xbox controller users. We're going to be following the same procedure as earlier, and we will add two buttons with a slight change. Press square so it highlights green, then select the square and go again to advanced settings. Again, for your first, add a yellow release zone with a timing of 0.01 seconds. The next square in the sequence will be set to the E key, and the next square after that will be set to the G key. What this does is make it so that both keys are pressed at once, since both of those keys generally interact in similar ways within the game. In the next slot in the sequence, again add a release zone, select it, and set it to 0.45 seconds. Next we add the green hold zone, and we set its timing to half a second. And for our final square in the sequence, just set it to your caps lock key. Now when you press this button on your controller, you will interact with the environment, but if you hold it down, you will begin to use a radio or walkie-talkie you have equipped to speak. Now hit OK and close. Now we do the circle button, or B button for Xbox users. This time, we're just setting it straight to the R key. This will make you reload your weapon. You can also go to advanced later and set this to be a press and hold key if you find another use you would like it to have. Now we go to triangle, or Y for Xbox users. This we set to spacebar, which is to jump. Alright, and now with all of those set, we're going to move on to the D-pad. These will all repeat steps that we just did earlier. Click the up button and go to advanced. Now set the release zone, go ahead and set the first button to the B key. Add the next release zone with a timing of 0.65 seconds. Add the hold zone with a timing of 0.7 seconds. And then for the final button, set it to the number 1. We have now set it so that you will point your finger if you pressed this outside of a car, or you'll buckle your seatbelt if you're in a car. And when held, you will use and equip an item in your first slot in your hotbar. Close out and move on to the right D-pad button. Again, go to Advanced. We're going to be setting this to the F2 key, and if you hold it, we're going to set the number 2. In Vanilla RP, to put your hands up, you must type in a long command, but you can also set this command to be on one of your F1 through F9 keys by using the /binds command. When you do this in the game, set your F2 key to trigger the /hands-up command. And then, when you hit the left D-pad button, your hands will be put up. And if held, it'll just use and equip the second item in your hotbar. Now we move on to the down D-pad button. For the first button, we're going to set this to F1. And for the second, we're going to set it to the number 3. F1 opens your phone, and 3 uses or equips your third item in your hotbar. Now we move on to the right D-pad button. We're going to set the first button to F. And we're going to set the second to the number 4. The F key makes you enter or exit a vehicle, and 4, obviously, uses or equips the fourth item in your hotbar. Next, we will move on to the L3 and R3 buttons. Click down your left joystick to make the L3 button highlight green, and then select it. We are going to set this to your left shift button. But before we close this, go to the bottom left and you'll see 3 checkboxes with images. The first is toggle, which makes it hold the button down until you press it again. And the second is rapid fire, which when held, presses the button very quickly over and over, and its timing can be set in advanced settings. We want to select the toggle box. This makes the L3 button hold down the left shift if we click it down once, allowing us to sprint easily without having to keep L3 pressed down the entire time. Then you just click it again when you want to stop sprinting. Hit OK, and press R3 to make it highlighted, and then select it. We're going to be setting this to F3. When clicked down, it will open your radial menu, which opens up a lot of useful options in the game. F3 is one of the most important buttons to remember, and it lets you do a lot of cool features. We place it on the right joystick because the right joystick is also the mouse. This allows you to click down the stick to pop open the menu, then quickly move to select any option and choose it with one thumb. Now we move on to the triggers and the bumpers. Most players will feel comfortable aiming down sights with the left trigger and firing with the right. I prefer setting my bumpers up for this, but I'm going to show you how most people will probably want it set up. Press your right trigger and select the square associated with it. On the keyboard pop-up, on the right side is a bunch of mouse controls. Here, we're going to set this trigger to be the left click, or the 1 button. Then we go to the right trigger and we select that to be the left click, or the 2 button. These now function as your mouse clicks, and they will be used for everything, not just shooting. Feel free to swap these in any order and with the bumpers if you like a different setup. Alright, now we do the bumper buttons. Press the right bumper and select its highlighted square, And we're going to set this to the in key. This will be your in-game push-to-talk button. Putting it here lets you hold it and keep talking while using other buttons on your controller and moving. Next, for the left bumper, highlight it and select it. And we're going to set this to a press and hold button. For the first button in the sequence, we're going to set this to Z. This flashes your hotbar, which lets you get a quick reminder of what you have equipped. And for the second button, we're going to set this to your left Alt. This will then activate what we call your third eye. Holding the bumper down will make an eye icon appear when you are aiming. Hovering this over certain local NPCs, elevator door controls, or other interactable objects lets you use your mouse to select an object and use them. This is equally important to playing successfully within the city. Next, we will do the Start, Options, Share, Home, and Touchpad buttons. If you use an Xbox controller, you're going to be more limited, so you will need to choose which ones to apply to your remaining buttons. For the PlayStation Options button, we're going to set that to a press and hold key. We set the first button to be the Escape key to open the options menu and map. And if held, we set that to the Home key. This lets you see your ID above your head and the number of players in the city. Next, we're going to set the Share button on the PS4 controller. We're going to just set this to the U key. This locks and unlocks your car. For the PS4 touchpad, we will set this to a tap and hold. For the first key, we're going to set that to the Tab key. This will open your inventory, and this is very important. So if you use an Xbox controller, be sure to map this somewhere else, possibly on the B key as the held button that I mentioned before. And for the second key, when we hold it, we're going to set it to X. This instantly cancels any animation or emotes you are currently performing. And for our final button, the PS4 Home button. We are going to set this to the tilde key. This is the key right below your Escape button, the little squiggly line. This button will now control the range and loudness of your voice, going from normal speaking voice, to shouting over distance, to whispering very close, and then back to a normal voice in a cycle. This is an important button, so just be sure to remember it's there. Alright, and the last step is to make sure to go to the file icon by the yellow reminder and click Save As. You can have multiple of these keybind profiles for different games or even different cities, and you can quickly swap them out. So be sure to save this as something like Vanilla RP keybinds. Once you've done that, you are officially finished and all set to play within the city. Just a friendly reminder, be sure to read the rules, make sure you have a working mic, and of course, have fun. I hope this tutorial really helped you out, and I hope to see you in the city. See you next time.